Hey guys, I wanted to do my very first video with something that is one of my family's favorite foods. So this is my recipe for tortillas. I have learned this recipe from my father-in-law, and then I have adapted it to make it in a smaller batch. He would use a whole 5-pound bag of flour and spend hours making it, and have several dozen tortillas, but I don't have the patience to do that all the time. So I wanted a way to make a smaller batch that made it more reasonable to do like for one meal at a time. So this is my recipe. This recipe will make about 3 dozen. You could always half it if you only wanted to make enough for like one meal, but my goal here is to hopefully have a few extra after tonight's dinner, but trust me, they go quick. So tonight, for about 3 dozen tortillas, we're gonna use 6 cups of flour. Now you don't have to be precise when measuring for tortillas, because if you have like a little bit extra flour, it's not gonna be the end of the world. We'll just add a little bit more water. So I just kind of shake it to level it. I don't do the whole knife flattening trick, or to make it a precise measurement. So that's 3, 4, 5. Getting to the bottom of my flour container here. That was quite a whole one, so a little bit extra. All right, there we go. 6 cups of flour, 1 cup of lard. Lard is best, but if you don't have lard, you can always use butter, shortening, any solid fat. I wouldn't say don't use like vegetable oil or anything, but lard is best, butter second best, Crisco. Those would be okay too. So 6 cups of flour, 1 cup of lard. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon of baking powder. We're gonna get that in there, and then we're gonna do 2 teaspoons of salt. Oh, a little bit too much there. Okay. All right, we're gonna mix this up with a bread hook. I use my mixer, but you can definitely do it by hand if you prefer. My father-in-law might pass out if he saw that I was using a mixer for this, because he likes to get in with his hands, but we're all about shortcuts. So we use a mixer, and we let the mixer do the dirty work for us. So once this starts to get incorporated, the mixture starts to get a little crumbly, I have 2 cups of hot water ready to go. It has to be hot. That way it kind of melts the lard as it mixes in. All right, I would say that's pretty good to go. I'm gonna slowly add in this water, and it will start to form a dough ball. I like to half the size of the bowl to get that flour down, but it will come down on its own, so you don't have to. As you add more water, it'll start to collect and form a ball on its own. But all right. Now you may or may not use 2 cups of water each time. It kind of depends on weather and whatever else is happening, in the air, humidity, etc. But most of the times I found this is a pretty consistent recipe where I do end up using the full 2 cups, but I always hold a little bit back and just kind of wait and see how it's doing. Once it starts to get more of a dough consistency, crank up the speed on that blender so it starts picking it up together a bit better. Okay, so it's not coming together all the way, so I definitely need a little bit more water. We're just gonna keep our eye on it and add a little bit more as we go. Watch it. beat up in a mixer here for a solid 5 minutes. It's gonna get that texture of the dough nice and smooth. So I'm gonna come back once this is ready to go, but I'll show you what it looks like when we're done, when I come back. Okay guys, it's been about 5 minutes. As you can see, my dough is ready. It is a nice, soft consistency. You wanna be able to stick your finger in it without it sticking to your finger. The sides of the bowl are nice and clean. There we go. So as you can see, it's really like Play-Doh soft, and your fingers are not gonna get all sticky or covered in anything. And that bowl is beautifully clean. This is exactly what you're looking for in your dough. So now that we have beat it up, we need to let it rest before we start forming our tortillas. So I'm gonna cover this the old-fashioned way, plastic bag. You could use saran wrap, towel, whatever you want, but plastic bag works just fine. So I'm gonna let this rest 15-20 minutes. Come back, we'll start forming some tortillas. Okay guys, it has been about 15 minutes and the tortillas are done resting. So now we are gonna take this and shape it into little balls so that we will then roll into tortillas. I clean my counter. I'm gonna put some flour down just to where I plan on putting the little tortilla balls so they don't stick. All right, let's see. Okay, so you can make these whatever size you like. I'll just show you the size that I like making. A little bit smaller than that. Okay, and again, I'm not a baker, so I found a way that works for me. If you have made bread or buns before, you probably know how to do this better than I do. I like to just put it in the palm of my hand and fold and fold and fold and just keep going around and around maybe 2-3 times until you have a uniform ball that is smooth on the other side. That's it. Set it aside. And then you just keep going until you're all done. So this is about the size that will make 3 dozen tortillas. I do occasionally make them smaller if I'm just doing, if I want them to last longer. But this is about the size I like to do on a normal basis. So again, that is what it looks like. Set it aside. I'm gonna continue making these and then I'm gonna cover them up and let them rest again for maybe 5-10 minutes, not as long this time. And then I'll bring you back when we're gonna roll them out and cook them. All right, thanks guys. Okay guys, the tortillas are nice and rested, so we are going to start rolling them out. Now this is something that took me a lot of practice. You wouldn't think it'd be that hard, but for me it was. I could not get them round for the life of me, and I still don't do a great job. But here's what I found works the best, for me anyways. I don't roll it on a floured surface. I take one of the balls, the first one you started with, go in order, and I just flatten it out a little bit. And then I stretch it out the long way. And having a non-floured surface kind of helps it not shrink back, you know, kind of hold it in place. Then you flip it, and then you push it out again. And you kind of just make it all a uniform thickness. You want it fairly thin, not paper thin. There, that looks pretty uniform, but as you can see, not round. But it'll still taste great. My husband used to make fun of me quite a bit because in the beginning, they used to look like all the different states. But he quickly learned to stop making fun of me if he wanted me to keep making homemade tortillas. Throw it right on a hot pan. This is very important. You want them to cook rather quickly, but not burn. So it might take some trial and error with those first couple to make sure you have that pan on the right temperature. My stove goes from, or my cooktop, I should say, goes from 0 to 9, and I have it set at 6.5. And that's usually about the right temperature for this this cooktop. Now you can see there's bubbles forming, or maybe you can't see. Come a little bit closer. There are bubbles forming, and that's exactly what I look for. Once it fills with little bubbles, that's when you want to flip it. You should see it turns white with some little light brown speckles. That's perfect. And as you see, once you flip it, if you start getting big bubbles again, you want to kind of pat those out. Otherwise, you're going to get a really uneven cook. The big bubble will get really dark and the rest of it will stay raw. So you want to make sure you kind of pop those bubbles as they start forming, but you can wait till after you flip it. If it's still raw on the top side, you don't need to worry about it. All right, so we see that bottom side? Beautiful. Set it off on a towel. Let it kind of cool off. As they come off, you want to separate them so they can cool off and dry out a little bit. If you start stacking them right away, they're going to steam together, and that's not good. That's not what you want. So I'm going to do a couple more of these. Let's do another one together. Again, flatten it out. Long way. All the way to the ends. Rotate it sideways. And hopefully round it out, or make a shape of some kind. It's all right. Like I said, it's still gonna taste good. All right. Pick it up, right onto that hot pan. Let's bring you in so you can see it a little bit better. I don't know if you can see, but there's a couple bubbles forming already. The pan might not be fully heated up yet because those bubbles normally appear a little bit quicker, but by the time I'm on my third or fourth one, it should be ready. But all right, see those bubbles there? They're really forming nicely. Once it's full of bubbles, and only once it's full of bubbles, then you flip. Pat it out. Let it cook for maybe 10-15 seconds. It doesn't take long at all. And usually you only do one flip. You don't want to be flipping back and forth. One flip, that's all you need. Just be patient. Let it get itself cooked. Take a peek. Beautiful. Set it off to rest. All right, guys, I'm going to keep making these tortillas. I will see you back here in a little bit and show you the end results when they're all done. And hopefully the true test is if you did it right or not, is if they stay bendable and soft after they've all completely cooled. So let's cross our fingers. See you soon. Okay, guys, I am not quite halfway through, but I got a little antsy to finish up the video and share with you guys the final results. As you can see, this whole stack over here has cooled off. I'm gonna grab the back half, or the first ones I did, just to show you. Look at how beautiful and soft they still are now that they've fully cooled off. That's exactly what you want. These came out perfect. This recipe hasn't failed me yet, so you should definitely give it a try. All right, I got some more tortillas to finish up, and then I'm gonna get started on dinner. Keep an eye out for my next video. Bye, guys.